Where's the weirdest place you've made a friend and how did it happen? On an airplane while flying to Paris. This adorable old lady was seated next to me, and while we were taking off, she started crying. I looked at her and asked her what was the reason of her being sad. She answered, and we ended up chatting the whole flight for 5 minutes. She reminded me a lot of my grandmother. Weird thing is she has the same name as my grandmother. We exchanged numbers and kept updating each other from time to time. And then she invited me to come visit her in Washington, D.C., and I ended up going. We still talk from time to time. She's so adorable. Anyone remember the old AOL chat rooms? I was idly browsing one of the chat rooms in 7th grade. And another person referenced something that I instantly recognized as being local to my area. We started chatting solo, and after a few months I invited her to come see my school play. It was fun explaining to my parents why this girl with no legs, one arm, and 3 fingers showed up and acted like we were besties. We ended up remaining friends for a good few years before naturally drifting apart. Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Nara in Norfolk Inn, 1990 or thereabouts. There's a water gun fight during the rain scene. Guy in the row ahead of me and going nuts, the water gun spraying down the rows behind. Girl sitting in the row behind me is trying to grab the water gun. Her friends flip her over the seat rail. She ends up in my lap. Stays for the rest of the show as I explain the bits and call and response to her as she was a virgin to the show. We've been friends ever since. A man dating my ex contacted me through social media after they had a bad argument and asked me for pointers on dealing with her. I helped coach him through aspects of their relationship. He was a super nice and he genuinely liked her and wanted to make it work. They eventually broke up, but he and I remained friends. I was bummed out it didn't work. I was rooting for them. I used to go on Roblox religiously in middle school. My main game of the time was Swordburst Online and I put hundreds of hours into it. At one point, I was going around giving players free items to free up some inventory space. One person that I found was on the first floor by themselves, and I gave them a rare drop. A decade later, they are my closest friend to this day. School, work, house party. I guess I don't really go out of my way to befriend people in odd places. I've gotten a shit ton of numbers from the bar of people I wanted to get to be friends with, but I always forget later and never call. Hopefully I never hurt anyone's feelings doing that. Maybe I should give them my number and let them reach out to me from now on. I had recently moved to a new city to take a job. While at the job, 2 random dudes were talking about Dungeons and Dragons in the elevator, and I asked, do you play 3 or 3.5? They were playing 3.5, and I have played D&D with them weekly for 10 years now. I also ended up being a groomsman in both of their weddings. At a conference for adult survivors of childhood cancer, we clicked right away. I thought I must have known him in a past life or something. Later I realized I had a picture of myself from 1997 receiving chemotherapy in a ward room, and my friend was in the background also receiving chemo. I made an online friend in grade 7 on some stick figure shooting game. I live in Canada. He lives in England. I'm now in my 30s. He and I no longer talk, but his best friend moved over here, married my best friend, and now they've got 2 amazing kids who adore me. Worked out for everyone. Met my now bestie in a blackout at Starbucks. Lights went out, and we couldn't see a thing. Started joking about who'd accidentally summon the espresso spirits. Ended up sharing phone flashlights and stories. By the time the lights were back, we were laughing like old pals. On the beach in Florida, got crowded, everyone had speakers going. But we liked his 80s tunes the most, so we asked him to come over and turn it up. Talked so long I forgot to reapply my sunscreen and got crispy. Worth it though, because now we're all good friends. Heard a good one on Reddit. This guy was in army training and the Sarge yelled out, "Are you ready?" And the voice down the line yelled, "I can't hear you." They both got kicked out of the course for laughing, and one of them was best man at the other's wedding. I posted something on Facebook for Cerebral Palsy Awareness Week to my uni's disability club page. Next thing I know, get a message from a student with CP asking me to dinner. We met up, and the rest is history. Dunkin' Donuts. It did last. But I had befriended a single mother. Saw some nerd pins on my bag. Frankly, I was uneasy to even be approached at first. Lasted about a decade before we went our separate ways. I matched with her husband on a dating app. She knew he was on there. She saw a picture of me and made him give me her number, and we're besties now. I only talked to her husband for 2 hours that day. In line at a buffet, I sang just a little bit from My Fair Lady, and she kept singing the song. We ended up singing and harmonizing show tunes through the line, and every time we met, I accidentally crashed into her car. She was hugging me over and over at the accident, and the cop was like, "I assume you to know each other." We were like, "Nah." First time meeting, my buddy and I collided face first into each other at a skate park. We both thought we would be pissed at each other, but laughed it off while bleeding. Been best buds ever since. The most unusual is probably the former webcam OnlyFans girl I used to occasionally buy from, who wanted to keep in touch once she quit. Social media anonymous friends I've never seen and don't care what they look like, yet have more in common with than most IRL. Fell off a bouncy castle and was asked if I was alright. We were best friends for 9 years afterwards. On Facebook comments, we realized we hated the same person and have been friends ever since. Sonic the Hedgehog forum in 2003. 2004. X to OOB. Best friends even today. To dull queue at the job center. We were just queuing and got talking. Does a Facebook group count? It's where I met my husband, totally random, in an elevator because he pointed out my bag was unzipped.